Hey guys, welcome back to Community Fitness Podcast. We are here, episode number 102. We're still in those triple digits and for those quadruple digits, so we're only 900 episodes away. But we're joined again. Chris, is this the fourth time you've been on the show?
This is about the fourth time now, I think. Yeah.
We had two,
It might
and then
be.
we had Suzanne, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great,
I
so
think it could be the fourth.
I think it's the fourth. And I told this to Amber last week when she was on our show she's a member here. And I was like, hey, you've only got 3 more to catch up to board. He's got the record right now. But
Well, I appreciate you
for those
having me on. I really enjoy talking about this, and I can only reach so many people on with what I do, and to be able to help reach your clients is a really good thing. So I really appreciate being on and enjoy it. We have a good time.
100%, and we always like having you. That's why it's a no-brainer. For those people that don't know you yet, look back at our episodes. We've got a couple exclusively with Chris, and then we've got one with registered dietitian and fitness gym Suzanne Klaus out of Forward Fitness in St. Louis. She talks about health that Chris and I are very interested in terms of overall health, performance, longevity. But Chris is the longevity fitness expert. He's the guy, and he's got stuff in the works. He owns Y.E.S Fitness over in Connecticut. He's been in the business for 23 years.
We're in our 23rd year, right? Yeah.
23 years, yeah. He's rocking and rolling. He's an inspiration. He is the reigning champ, results fitness business owner of the year, and the guy's got a ton of stuff behind him, and he's still working hard to achieve new goals and get better, which I think is something that we can all kind of learn from in terms of our health and fitness and wherever we're at in our life towards something else. Like, be good and sit on some. He's as active and as ambitious as ever. But today we're talking a few different things. Before into the main topic of a book that Chris read on the longevity diet, I just want to check in and see how you're doing, man. So what's new in your life? What do you got going on?
What's going on in my life? Got a bunch of stuff going on. I just recently, there's always a silver lining to everything that happens in life. And yeah, COVID hit us hard and out of business and things like that. But the silver lining was during COVID, I created a course, a 12-week strength training course for longevity called Get Stronger, Live Longer. And then I also finished up writing my book, Get Stronger, Live Longer, the Expert's Guide to Strength Training for Longevity, because my belief is there's a lot of things out there, there's a lot of things we can do, lifestyle, to help us live longer, but we really need to be able to do those things that help us enjoy those years. I mean, just to live longer is not what's important. You want to be able to enjoy whatever years you have. So that's why I have such an emphasis on strength training and those two products. And I have been training for the Masters Games in New Britain. They were supposed to happen in May, and they got postponed till October, and now they've been canceled till next year. I'm attempting to win a 50-meter and 100-meter dash. I've never run a race in my life, but I was an athlete all my whole life. So those are kind of the things that have been going on in my life. So it's been busy despite the pandemic. Always moving forward.
I think it's cool that you had you had a business to run, you had your own goal, the fitness goals to take care of, but you brought up these 3 other projects, this Get Stronger to Live Longer 12-week program. You had the book, and you were training for the Master Olympic Games for the sprints, and something that you'd never done. Like, you had 3 majors. I just told this to one of our coaches yesterday during our team meeting, like, hey, you're going to look back in 2020 and you're going to remember COVID, but you're going to remember all 3 of those other things that you also done too.
Exactly. Yeah, COVID has been challenging for a lot of areas, but it really has, when we're closed, give me a lot of time. Like, what else was I going to do? You can't go in, you can't do anything. So I really could get really focused on my training, although it was a little disappointing that it has been canceled. The silver lining in this is, despite doing this workout 5 or 6 times, and I've been training for a long time, I've been training for most of my life, and I've never had something like this happen. I strained my calf on Labor Day. Seriously strained my calf, like fell down, and I've been rehabbing it, and it's a couple weeks now. I tried to run yesterday. I might have been able to run it maybe half speed. So I'm not even sure I'd be able to run in the race in October. I don't know if I would be healed by then. So it might be another silver lining. Might have been a good thing.
Calves and hips, man, they just linger forever.
I have never pulled any muscle in my life, and now my calf. And So it's been
Well, keep up with
interesting.
the
I started
rehab.
working with the speed coach over at Central Connecticut State University to help me get out of the blocks. And it's super cool. She gave me some really good workouts. She gave me, she was a tremendous help because, in such a short distance like that, it's all about that first 10 or 20 meters, right? It's all about the start. And, I went out and bought blocks. I started watching all kinds of YouTube videos, and I get in the blocks. I'm videotaping myself, checking it out online. And then I just said, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You got to hire somebody. And I did. So I got a hold of the coach. She's really super nice. And the Division I track coach, she knows what she's doing. So I think it's going to make a
100%.
real difference.
Right? We tell people that, like, your health and fitness, like, you can go on anything on YouTube on working out, on healthy lifestyle and everything else, like anything else like that. And you can do it, but you're somebody who, you have to walk, talk to talk right there. We go through that with people when we say, like, at some point, like, you just go to the experts and get help from them. You're getting everything done so quick. Like, just you're wasting so much. You're not necessarily wasting so much of your time, but how much further could you be and how much faster could you get there if you just went and sought the expert and got it done?
Exactly. So lesson learned. I mean, sometimes you need to go to the professionals, and I did. And she's going to make a huge difference. We're going to start up again in the spring, about 8 weeks out. And I'm really looking forward to working with her. My calf will be healed by then for sure.
Well, get it healed. Still stay motivated to do it. And I was trying to keep tabs on and watching it and seeing kind of where everything was at. So we're still rooting for you. Everybody that watches the podcast is still rooting for you. It's going to be cool. It's not canceled. It's just postponed. It's just right now.
Postponed. At some point in time, I'm going to run. I will run at some point.
Yeah. So, 12-week program, got the book done. That's a huge thing. I'm excited to read that book when I open it up here and get my hands on that. And then the program. Anything new in the future that's coming up that you want to kind of share with us and what we should be in the with you, or anything like that going on?
Right now, just me personally going on. I'm trying to settle in and start to self-promote myself. Start to try to get on some other podcasts to be able to promote my book, get some sales of my book, get some sales of my 12-week program, because I'm just so passionate about trying to help people be able to enjoy those extra years, because it's just crazy. When people walk through our door at 45, 50 years old and they can't do a push-up, they can't squat anymore, they get out of breath going up and down the stairs. It's just sad to see that happening. And I'm doing it. Actually, I'm doing a blog tomorrow on everything in moderation. It's my blog tomorrow. Nice. Everything in moderation. So we hear that all the time. Well, I just I eat everything in moderation. I exercise in moderation, but yet we are more physically unfit. 80% of the people don't get enough exercise. We're heavier as a society. So how is everything in moderation working? It's not working. Right? It's not working at all. So, that's our passion. So that's what I'm working on. So just get that book out there, get some more people exercising, and live through the pandemic. Stay in business. Stay in business.
Right. I mean, arguably going through one of those years that eventually you've ever had to go through, and you've already had some other hard years. Like, you went through 9/11. You were in business through 9/11 and close to that area there. You've been thrown different stuff and you're still staying strong. But I think the coolest thing is that you're still staying hungry and passionate about what you want to be able to do to change the world and change you. And I want people to take advantage of that, because I think so many people view it as like, I've worked so hard and now I give up, or like I feel like there was one battle that I lost and then I just lost the war type of thing. And and still doing it, and you're still doing it at high levels. I think there's an inspiration that your people there at your gym are going to see from that and stay motivated, and people watching this will see it. I know I am like you're tough and you're doing it for this long, man. It's awesome.
I think what's really cool about longevity is I consider it like a bank. We make deposits. We're taught to save money as a kid, throw your money in a bank and keep making little deposits over time. So when it comes time to retire, we have some money to live off of. Although I don't think we should ever cruise. I don't think I should ever hit cruise control, because that's when you lose your edge, and you always have to have some kind of purpose. That helps us with longevity. But you can just continue to do little things, and it builds and it builds and it builds. So I like to make deposits in my longevity bank, and that's what people need to do. He's not going to do it overnight. Little thing here, a little thing there, a little there. And next thing you know, from January 1 this year to January 1 of next year, you've done so many things to improve on your ability to live longer and be able to live healthier and be able to enjoy that, increase your health span. So it's all about not hitting cruise control. It's about continuing
like that
to improve ourselves, right? Yeah.
I like the deposits part, and I like not hitting cruise. People will get super successful, go on the cruise.
Yeah.
And there's this weird psychological thing that happens, like when you reach a certain that you trained for and what you accomplish, you feel accomplished. Like it's almost a scary thing. And I told this to somebody the other day. It's not that I don't want you to never think or to think that you can never just settle down and be comfortable, but you got to know that there's this stage of psychological, positive psychology, negative psychology. It's a stage that the brain goes through a person when they get comfortable and they take a step back and they're just not as focused, and it happens in all different areas, but people just realize it because all the little things that they were doing right, all of a sudden the little things that they stopped because they're like, oh, it's small, it doesn't make it. The habits, those are the carry you through.
It's what keeps us successful.
100%. Very cool. Looking at my notes here. Perfect. So you being the longevity fitness expert means that you are up to date in a lot of this longevity fitness stuff. Before we go into the book that you read, is there any like brand spanking news that you've come across in the last month or two that you want to share for longevity? Because this is where I get to nerd out with.
The last month or two.
Anything kind of shocked you, mind blowing? Anything that came out?
I don't think there's been anything that's come out that very recently, because I got to be honest. Yeah, I stay on top of it in that I haven't seen anything new. And then I kind of delved into this book a little bit, and some of the stuff in the book kind of surprised me. But I don't have anything that say, okay, this has changed that much that we need to take a look at things differently with regards to longevity.
That's a good sign. I mean, it's a good sign that A, you're on top of it, but there's nothing that's really that you ever had to change because you didn't have to change it. But also B, that like everything that's already in play is kind of still moving along. Like it's all there's a show on Netflix that one of our members referred me to. She goes, "Hey, I watched this new Netflix, and it's got Zac Efron in it, and the way he talks, kind of like doing things, reminds me of that you talk out of the gym, and reminds me of you." And I'm like, "Oh, like I think I probably know Zac Efron. Like I know who he is. What's the show?" And she's like, "Down to Earth." So I checked it out, and then I think it was episode 3 or 4. I started watching it. I'm like, "Man, this is Chris." like this the stuff that they're talking about there, and they're trying to get people to understand. The same stuff that you've been saying over the last year and a half, if not long. Like it's not news. It's not new news. We're to get it out there so people understand it. I think I texted, "Hey man, it was a great episode on the same stuff that I learned from you, like whatever episode it was." And you watched the show.
Yeah, I watched. Yeah. It was very interesting. Probably one of the most interesting things about the show to me was just how he just kept saying, every trainer on earth has been telling me to eat protein. Every trainer on earth. And what I took from that was every trainer on earth told you to eat protein because what was your goal? Your goal was probably to gain lean muscle mass, probably to lean out your body, right? So I'm not saying that trainer was right or wrong. They probably could have been right because they were telling him what to do for that particular goal. But if you're asking me, and we always have to ask this question, what is your goal? If your goal is to live longer, you need to back off of protein, especially animal proteins. And you need your carbohydrates. So the high protein diets, as we'll talk about in a minute, don't get through his Dr. Longo's 5 pillars of longevity, because it doesn't. The people who live longer don't eat those kind of meats. They don't eat the animal proteins. So he kept emphasizing that, and I kept saying, well, that's because that's what you wanted. That was your goal. The trainer wasn't wrong because he was delivering for you what you asked for. You didn't ask him to live longer. You probably asked him to get bigger, more muscular, lean out, get ready for a party, whatever it might be, right? So I thought that, but the whole show was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's an interesting show. There was the part on that same episode, I think we were talking proteins, where he's in Italy and they're making their own pasta, and he's like, "Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I haven't touched a carb." High carbs, like you guys are doing high carbs. I'm not supposed to eat these, and
exactly,
they're just
exactly.
chowing down. Good stuff. So that's a cool show to feel free people to check out. But anyways, let's talk this book that you referred to. It's on my list. It's sitting on my desk. Not read it yet. I'm still going to read it despite everything that we're going to go through today and get a quick review. But you can go over and kind of talk about this book that you recommended to me that is going to be next up on my list right after yours. I'm going to read yours.
Appreciate that. All right, so it's the longevity diet. Dr. Valter Longo wrote the book. Okay, it's discover the new science behind stem cell activation and regeneration to slow the aging, fight disease, and optimize weight. So that's the premise of the book. So if you're not familiar with Dr. Longo, let me just read this here, the director of Longevity Institute at USC, is the founder of the founder of createcures.com. It's an advanced strategy of illness beyond traditional treatment. So it's an alternative medicine type deal there. So he is well known in the industry for longevity, especially nutrition. And the idea of the book is to be, and his diet is to put the body and the cells into an anti-aging mode, okay? And to promote autophagy, which is to get rid of the old garbage cells that aren't working, right? Because he believes that when we take drugs, all it does is address the symptoms, right? It doesn't really always fix the problem. It limits the damage that's occurring to the body. Whereas what he would like to do is to promote the reactivation of the pathways that help fight the disease, and to do it naturally. So we take a drug, we kind of disrupt the harmony of the body. There's always all kinds of side effects, right? But we want to try to do it without having that disruption, try to get the body to do what it was designed to do. And how do we do that? And this is how he believes we can do that. And a lot of this is stuff that we've already talked about, although he has a couple of takes on it that are interesting. And throughout the book, he does a little bit of research. In the last part of the book, he talks really about the research that he's done to how the diet helps reduce glucose intolerance, blood pressure, cholesterol, C-active protein, which is a risk factor for coronary artery disease, and the reduction in the improvement of triglycerides. So there's all kind of research sort of at the end of the book and how the diet has helped people who have cancer and autoimmune diseases. But I'm just going to talk more about what the diet is and the nuts and bolts of that particular of the diet itself. So he has 5 pillars of longevity. Okay, and what he believes is that when we take a look at a diet, we want to take a look at that diet and make sure that it will pass all 5 pillars. And at the end, we'll take a look at the high protein diets that are out there and how they don't pass his 5 pillars. And his 5 pillars are based on science. Some of it's based on science, some of it's not quite based on science. So the first thing he starts with is juventology. Okay, juventology is the science of staying young. We want to make sure that we know and understand how the body ages and how to keep the cells younger. So juventology is the first pillar that he believes in. And then epidemiology, which is the cause of important risk factors for disease in defined populations. So epidemiology, we know that's against science, always just constant research being done on that. And then he takes a look at clinical studies of the diet, okay? The clinical study is the testing of hypothesis. So, for example, if you have taken too much sugar, you're going to get insulin resistance, be higher or lead to type 2 diabetes. So that type of research. That's the third thing he likes to take a look at. The fourth thing is he likes to take a look at centurions. He studies centurions, the blue zones. Those 5 zones in the world that people live longer. And the people that are living longer, does that diet work for them? Are they on a diet that's like that? Is the diet something that's going to be able to stay on for long term? Is it safe? And can you stick with it? And then the fifth thing is he studies what he calls complex systems, which is to identify machines that can serve as models that function or lose function our body's organs and systems. So, for example,
Like,
pardon me?
like actual machines?
Not actual machines,
what do
but
you
our
mean?
body's organs and systems, right?
Okay.
So, like proteins and sugars, they activate the genes and the pathways that are associated with aging, like RAS or PKA or TOR, S6K, and IGF-1. So proteins and sugars are things that we want to stay away from because they activate those complex systems. So those are the 5 things that he tries to put his diet or anyone's diet up against to help the body to age better, live longer, right? And he also has a central lying theme that, and this is the same thing that Dr. Sinclair, who wrote Lifespan, has the same philosophy, is that aging is the central risk factor for all disease. Okay? All disease occurs because of aging. And if we were to help this, if we would help aging, we would help everything. And to realize that if we were to cure cancer or cardiovascular disease, we would only increase lifespan by a little over 3 years. So if we wiped out cancer completely, it would only increase lifespan by 3 years. Yet, if we were to improve on the aging process, okay, it would help eliminate cancer, it would help eliminate cardiovascular disease, and then we would add 10, 20, 30 years to our lives. So this is what their belief is, that the central risk factor of all major diseases is the aging process.
So essentially, it's not such of getting rid of the disease itself. It's how to help aging process to not let the disease happen in the first place.
Exactly, to help stop the disease in its tracks, help it not happen, help make sure cancer doesn't happen. And obviously, there's a lot of things that are going to get involved in it, but that cardiovascular disease, we know the things that are going to make us have cardiovascular disease, right? Become obese,
Right.
eat saturated fats, don't do any exercise, don't sleep, right? So let's get rid of cardiovascular disease by taking care of the risk factors rather than popping a pill, right? So
Right.
that's kind of the thought. That's the thought process behind what they're trying to accomplish here. So the diet itself, there are 9 things to follow in the diet. I don't want to miss any of them, so I have my notes here. So we want to follow pescatarian diet, right? And which is a plant-based diet with a little bit of fish. We want to have fish 2 to 3 times a week. Obviously, we want to avoid the fish with mercury, halibut, swordfish, mackerel, tuna, those type of things, have the healthier fish. And which is that, this isn't news, right? This isn't new to us. We want to try to follow a plant-based diet. If we're over 65, we want to introduce a little bit more fish and a little bit more animal protein, maybe some eggs, goat cheese, feta cheese, goat milk, yogurt, things like that. Because at 65 or so, 65 to 70, we don't produce as much IGF-1, the growth hormone factor, right? And we start to lose weight, we start to lose muscle mass. So we want to try to introduce a little bit more protein as we get a little bit older. This number 2 thing is we're going to stay very low on protein, actually. And the people who live the longest are low on protein. So he recommends 0.031 to 0.036 grams of protein per day per pound. 0.31 to 0.036 of grams of protein per pound per day. So what is that?
Basically, if a person weighed 150 pounds, 60 grams approximately of protein a day.
So I wrote some numbers out. So if you're 130 pounds, a lot of women around 130 pounds, we're talking 40 to 47 grams of protein a day. 2 to 200 pounds, 2 to 220 is 60 to 67 grams a day, right? And again, at 65, we want to try to increase that a little bit, 10 to 20%, or 5 to 10 grams a day. Again, trying to increase it by those types of proteins we just talked about. So very low protein. And what's interesting is the RDA, I think the RDA is 0.36 grams per day.
Give me 2 seconds and I'll keep talking and I'll bring it back up. I'll
So
really quick.
he's less than the RDA, which I thought was a little bit interesting. Number 3, fats. Of course, we want to have good fats, olive oil, salmon, walnuts, almonds. Stay away from saturated fats, trans fats, hydrogenated oils. He recommends having 3 tablespoons of olive oil a day and 1 ounce of nuts. So fats is no
0.36.
different. I'm sorry, go ahead.
RDA. 0.36 for the RDA.
Yeah, so he's recommending less than the RDA for protein. So one thing we have to do in life is we need to absorb information and decide what's right for us. Okay, I would lean on the higher side myself personally because I want to maintain muscle mass. I want to be able to function as I get older. I don't want to be old, weak, and frail. So the fats recommendation is the same. We've always been talking about good fats. Carbohydrates, pretty much the same thing. We want to have complex carbohydrates, legumes, vegetables. Stay away from the simple sugars, pastas, breads, fruit juices, rice. Carbohydrates always get a bad rap out there, but they're so important to our body, right? Because we need to fuel ourselves properly for our cells to be able to fight the war on oxygen, viruses, and other molecules that destroy our DNA. So we need carbohydrates in our diet, right? And if you kind of take
there's 2 parts of those carbs. Sorry, Chris. There's 2 parts of the carbs too that I want to touch. There's like a lot of the fruits and vegetables. A lot of fruits and vegetables are all carbohydrates. That's where vitamins and minerals are. Yep. And I had this conversation with somebody over the summer when it was, crazy hot out and we're sweating like pigs, basically doing anything that we can do. And you might be underhydrated. Your body's not really holding on to the water and you're sweating. Like eat some more carbs. Like it's a carbohydrate. Like also holding on to more water than the carbs. More water in your body is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Some carbs to stay healthy, like keep your body limber and keep your muscles working right and their organs working like it helps you retain water.
Yeah. One thing I don't care for that in his recommendation of staying away fruits and fruit juices. Yes, if you just eat a piece of fruit, right? It does have sugar. It's going to get metabolized really quickly. So don't eat the piece of fruit alone, right? Eat the piece of fruit with something else to stop that absorption process so quickly. Because I believe there's so many nutrients in fruits that I think that we should have them in our diet. Have it with your meal if you want to have it with your meal. If you enjoy some fruit, just don't have it alone. Don't just drink a glass of orange juice alone, right? Number 5 is to eat foods like our ancestors ate. Now, this is not one that I necessarily would follow personally, but he believes that you want to eat some foods that your ancestor ate in your region. So, for example, in Japan, your grandparents may be from Japan, and I don't know anyone from Japan. I didn't talk to anyone about this, but from Japan, your grandparents may not have had milk. Okay, so now if you go to start to drink milk, you might have a hard time breaking it down, and you might be milk intolerant. I think that now generations and generations live in the United States. We don't have that like central, like if you're from Italy, these are the foods that you eat, right? And if you're from wherever, Spain, these are the foods you eat. Because of the diversity in the United States, I think that's a little bit hard to do, right? So I don't have that one on the top of my list of things to do. I'm Italian, I love pasta, I'm going to eat pasta. But that's one of his things, is to eat foods that your ancestors ate. Now, maybe we could take a look at the fact that our ancestors ate maybe less processed foods or foods that they made themselves. Certainly that would be a factor to take a look at. If your weight is normal, he wants you to eat 2 meals a day, like breakfast and a large meal, and have 1 nutritious snack. So 2 meals and a snack per day. If you're going to lose weight, if you want to drop some weight, or over 65, you want you to eat 3 meals a day and a snack. Okay, so not necessarily have more food, but trying to spread that meal out, especially if we're a little bit older. It might take a little bit longer for us to be, it may be harder for us to digest, okay? So if you're kind of really overweight, you want you to have breakfast and lunch or dinner, so 2 meals and 2 snacks. So he is pumping up it a little bit higher, but that snack should be no more than 100 calories and 3 to 5 grams of sugar. So we can take a look at just right there. We're not taking in a whole lot of food, right? I mean, unless you're really gorging yourself, that's not a whole lot of food. 2 meals and a snack. And yeah, your stomach's going to shrink a little bit. You're going to get full faster. He does recommend taking a multivitamin every 2 to 3 days. And one of my concerns is, are we getting enough nutrients out? I'm a lot of eats fruits, a lot of vegetables. Eating 2 meals a day, am I getting enough nutrients? Am I getting enough nutrients by only taking in 0.3 grams of protein per pound of body weight? We're not talking about a whole lot of food here, right?
Right.
And he wants us to restrict our eating to 12 hours. And if you're trying to lose weight, 10 hours. So if you're going to have breakfast at 6, you're done eating at 6 p.m. Now, if you cut it to 10 hours, I guess I'm sorry, go ahead.
Fasting protocol. Almost imposed fasting protocol. He's not calling it that. You got an open window to eat.
Yeah. And when you get down to 10 hours, it can maybe cause some contraindications or complications for increased coronary artery disease risk factors. 10 hours is a short period of time. That means you're eating breakfast at 8, dinner at 6. That's short. It's a short period of time. He believes in periodic, prolonged fasting. And whenever you fast, you should have a doctor or a dietitian looking over that. So his fasting, we're going to talk about his fasting program, because that's really one of the meat and potatoes of this, is 2 to 5 times a year to fast if you're under 65 and healthy. And I'll go through some of those guidelines later. And then the main thing is that you want to follow these guidelines, these 8 things, until you reach a healthy weight and your abdominal circumference is under 40 or 35, for 40 for male, 35 for female. If you're 2 times risk factors for premature. And then 33 to 37 if you're I forget what that is now off the top of my head. Whatever the guidelines are for abdominal circumference, I want to say it's less than 40 to 35. I want to say it's 33 to 27. But anyway, he wants you to follow these guidelines until you get rid of that abdominal fat, right? Because we know that fat's not good for us. So that's kind of the diet portion of what he believes in. Some things I think might need to be taken a look at individually, like the amount of fruits that you eat and the amount of protein that you take in, but those are his guidelines, which is not far off by what most people do or most people believe in for longevity. Now, exercise was very confusing to me, okay? He says what type of exercise you do doesn't matter. So my definition of exercise is you're progressively overloading the systems. You're working. I believe he's more talking about movement. 5 to 10 hours a week, more is not better. It's like a used car. We don't want to buy a car with 200,000 miles on it, right? But it's not good for the car not to be used at all. So we want to be doing something. So he wants you to walk fast 1 hour a day, cumulative 1 hour a day. On top of that, if I understand this correctly, on top of that, every other day, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he wants you to do 30 to 40 minutes of either swimming, riding your bike, something like that, and then another 2 hours on the weekend. And on the weekend, he suggests walk everywhere. So he doesn't really talk to you. To me, he's not talking about exercise. He's talking about movement and activity. Okay? He says use your muscles. So, hey, go out and mow the lawn, get out of your car, open the garage door up and down, grow your own food, stuff like that. When we take a look at what the CDC recommends, they recommend 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity to 75 minutes of intense activity. I think that defines it much better than what he's talking about here. And certainly when you get to 300 minutes of moderate intensity activity or 150 minutes of intense activity, you don't see that much more benefit. So you don't need to do more, okay? You just need to get that 150 minutes in, which you should be getting out of breath, right? You should be breaking a sweat a little bit,
Get enough in, but more, not better in this case. Get enough, but then spread it out however you want.
Exactly. And you don't need to, I don't disagree with the activity. Park your car, walk further, take the stairs, walk to the store and stuff like that. But to me, that's not exercise. To me, that's activity. Right. That's my own personal belief.
Non-exercise-based activity, thermogenesis.
Exactly. Exactly. The other thing he talks about for protein, he doesn't think that we should take in more than 0.33 grams of protein per pound of body weight because it doesn't promote muscle growth. He thinks 30 grams is what we need to be at. So one of your meals should be 30 grams of protein, and it should be within an hour or two of working out. Have a little carbohydrate with that as well to optimize it. So again, nothing really crazy different about what he's talking about, right? But this is where it becomes different. He promotes a product. His product is on a website called L-Nutra.com. So for the fasting, you want to buy his product or this product. And I think the proceeds of the product goes to research and things like that. I don't think he's making money on a product. But I personally don't like engineered food. I'd rather try to eat natural foods. He doesn't talk about that. He talks about doing this fasting mimicking diet, okay, for a healthy person, okay? A healthy person twice a year. Healthy weight, no risk factors twice a year. So I'm going to kind of go through them a little bit. The product is not overly expensive. It's about $225. So that's about $500 a year if you're healthy to do this diet, to do this fasting 2 to 5 days a year, twice a year, right? And the research of this program does show that it helps to regenerate the stem cells, turn them on to help the immune system, the nervous system, the pancreas, promotes autophagy, all that kind of stuff. So his research shows that what they do, and this product does help this, okay? I just prefer to try to eat more natural foods and engineered foods. And so being engineered, it's going to make sure that we're getting enough nutrients in there, that we're getting enough calories during this fast. It's a variety of different ways to take it, I guess, different foods, so that it's something that a lot of people are going to like. It's not just one particular food, and it is plant-based. So let me just give you some of the guidelines. Of course, you want to be under doctor supervision or a dietitian supervision. So if you're overweight or obese, and you have 2 risk factors for diabetes, cancer, coronary artery disease, or a neurodegenerative thing, you want to do this fast once a month. Once a month is what it's going to take to kick the body back into what it should be doing, right? If you're average or normal weight with 2 risk factors, it's once every 2 months, or every other month. If you're an average weight and you have 1 risk factor, it's once every 3 months. If it's normal weight, but you're physically inactive, it's about quarterly, once every 4 months. And then if we're active and we're normal weight, twice a year. So that's a lot of times in there for someone who's obese. And certainly if you're following those nutrition guidelines, and you're fasting, hey, you're going to lose weight. You got to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's going to be something happening.
Something's got to be happening, right? We see it all the time. But I have not tried the product. I may try the product to see what it's like. But this is his belief in what it takes to turn the body back on to do what it was designed to do, to get those cells working the way it was supposed to work, to fight diabetes the way it should be fought, to fight cardiovascular disease the way it should be fought. So there's a lot of things in there that aren't really new to us, I don't think. Just his limits of them is what's kind of a little bit different.
Right. They're more his prescriptions. They're not necessarily
Exactly.
his limits. And I know we got a couple more to go, but I want to make sure that you stay on time. You got 7 minutes until 1 p.m. your time.
That's what I got. At 1 o'clock, I got a call.
Yep. So I just want to make sure you knew to keep on track if you want to buzz through those last couple pillars that we have.
Yeah. So we can touch on based on this is interesting stuff. I would not say don't do this. I think it's a great book to read. I think it's a good book to give you more information for you to utilize, and determine what you want to do to help yourself live longer. I do think you need to lift some weights. He says lift weights twice a week. I don't think his guidelines for exercise are solid, okay? And I think, some of the other things in nutrition, like I talked about already, are some things that I would personally probably not follow, but I don't know if I can argue with him. I mean, the dude's no science, man. I mean, the dude's he's pretty up there, so, right?
But I mean, like you said, it's not like you're telling us stuff from what you've done before in the podcast and what you put in your book, it's not like you're telling your stuff where you don't know anything. I mean, you know your
Exactly.
stuff too.
Exactly.
I think the main thing that you're saying here is take the information and what you do it, like do something with it, but do what works best for you and what you, and if anything, experiment with it all and then see what else. But the main thing too is that if you're focused as longevity as a goal, doing something or a hybrid of these two things, that when your book comes out and this guy's stuff, you're doing something towards it. I mean, you both are, you're not giving us false information.
Right, exactly. And start making deposits. Start making deposits in that longevity bank, right? So take some information from here, take some information from the other times that we've spoken, and especially the information about the gut biome that we did with. I mean, that was great stuff. So again, just start to make some little changes, right? Start to make some changes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if anything, if people just have to, like you just said there, start making their deposits. You can't sit and keep thinking about it or start looking for more information of what the best way to do things are or what the right way to do things are. Like, you'll figure out the right way to do things are if you do enough things, and you'll figure out what works best for you, but you can't not do anything. That's exactly the main thing. You got to make deposits. You got to start saving up something somewhere.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. You got to do something, right? Shit just doesn't happen. You got to make it happen, right? I didn't just like wake up one day and say, okay, I have a book. It took me a year. You gotta start somewhere. You gotta start doing, figure out what you want to write about, grab some articles so that you wrote, put it all together. It's a process. And in the end, now I have a book, right? Same thing with longevity. It's a process. In the end, we're going to live longer. So everything is a process, right?
Yeah. Living longer and then being more functional when you're longer, being able to enjoy those years. I just had that conversation with a lady here, like, hey, you're coming up on retirement. Like, you didn't work your ass off these last 4 years to just get retired and be brittle and frail. Like, let's get you enjoying your trips, your vacations, your hikes, your skiing trips. Like, let's rock and roll. Like, this is what it's all about right now. Like, you have to enjoy your life the most.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, we don't want to work our ass off for all these years and then get to retirement and just sit on our butts and not be able to enjoy it. I mean, come on. I mean, I don't think I'll ever retire because I think it's important to keep working, but let's enjoy this. Yeah. The kids are gone, right?
100%. Chris, always a pleasure. Always good stuff. I took another whole thing of notes here that I'm going to be looking at and using for content later on in our life, and I'll make sure I get this some of this stuff up for you as well. Hey, great. We say this every time. Let's do it soon.
Do it again, man. Soon. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope I'm helpful to help some people.
You definitely will be, and I'll let you know if anybody has any questions on this, as I always do. And guys, thanks for watching. Like this, there's a lot of big nuggets here, but Chris said it. Make your deposits. Start making your deposits. If there's a theme on there, get the information, but make your deposits. And once again, this is Chris Border from Y.E.S Fitness. Give him a follow on Facebook and Instagram. And make sure you're paying attention, and we'll be back on in the future, and definitely when that book comes out. But everybody else, thanks for watching the Community Fitness Podcast. I'm Jordan Rudolph. Once again, Chris, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll see everybody next week.
Mm-hmm.